So, hello, wonderful potters and pottery lovers. If you watched my Facebook live stream last week, you watched me fight for this pot. And I fought for it and I won. Or at least I think I won at this point. It's still got a lot of drying to do, so most of you who've made pots know, well, time will still tell, but it's looking promising. So what I want to do next is put some handles right here, and you can see that I took a wood stick and removed a little slip there and scored, and I'm actually going to remove some slip up this pipe. And this chimney pipe right here is also made with Miller 900, so look how thick my slip is. I'm still going down to find, there it is, to find my red clay. It's a long way to it, isn't it? But I take it off because I've found handles attached to slip is not such a great idea. It can give you some trouble. So I'll fix this back after I attach the handle, but that looks pretty good to me. Maybe a little bit higher even. And now I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Just going to scrape it off until I get down to the iron colored clay. If it's thick slip on your same clay, you have to be a little more diligent about when you've landed under the slip. But you can usually tell, you can even take it off while the slip's really wet, but that means you're already determined pretty much what kind of handle you're going to put on. And for me, I just decided that this morning. Because you know how I roll. I'm like, I think I'll do this. Wait a minute, I think I'll do something else. And I change my mind many times right in the process of the doing. Because we can, right? Okay, so I'm going to score this a little bit and score up here. And now this pot is pretty ready for the handle to be attached to it. Any kind of mess that I have from removing slip, I'll put slip back on later. Okay, so I have got some clay here, and I'm going to pull these little loop handles. Let me take this and set it aside for just a minute and demonstrate how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to put a little moisture on my hand and gently squeeze this lug of clay. And when I pull a handle, I don't go straight to it. I wake the clay up a little bit, compress it a little bit, and then all of a sudden, I can feel it come alive. It wakes up, and that's when I start stretching it. And this handle is going to be pretty small. It's sort of a decorative handle, not necessarily, actually, not at all a hey, pick me up by these handles. That's not what's going on here on this pot. I'm going to stretch it a little more. I've got a little lump of clay right there at the bottom, so I'm just going to take it off. Now, somewhere at about this point, I'm going to start to create two planes, a plane here and a plane here with a high edge. And that's going to be the top of my handle. And I want this to stretch pretty much the same size all the way down. And I'll tell you what, as you're learning to pull handles, it's a great process to practice to do a long, even strap. Some people give up before they get there, so don't give up. Handles are so much fun. And usually when you're doing a design of a new handle, it's a little frustrating. So push through it. Make more than one piece so you do it more than once so you don't leave that process feeling like you didn't have a good grip on it. Grip. Okay, so this is feeling pretty good. I'm going to make it a little smaller. Just a little bit smaller. About like that. And now I'm going to set it down on a bat. And I have one right here. Let's use this side. and I'm going to set it down and evaluate it. And I think it looks pretty good. So I'm going to take a tool, which appears not to be with me. Oh, there it is, right where it's supposed to be. And I'm going to cut this off and cut that off. And now I have one long strap, and you can see there's high edges. Well, I want these edges to go all the way down to the flat edge on the bottom. So I'm going to do that with this rib now. And if I feel like the handle's a little too tall, like, oh, I wish it weren't that tall, I'll just take it off, like that. And create my beveled edges again. There it is. That feels pretty good right there. Yeah. One more little stretch down. Maybe take it off one more time off the top. And here we are. A nice piece of clay to make two beautiful loop handles with. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this in half. And I could measure and be all particular about it, but as soon as I put them next door to each other, I'll know if I've landed it. So I'm going to set it right there, next door to that one, and it looks like I did just fine. So now I'm going to pick this up and inspect the back side. And from sitting on this masonite bat, it's gotten a little goobery, so I'm going to clean it up now. And then I'm just going to fold this over into a loop while the clay is still wet. You might want to take something like a dowel and put it in the loop and bring it around so that you hold your negative space. Do you see that? And then once I've got it on there, I'm going to do the same thing with the other one. Let's look at that negative space. I might take my pinky in there and really reinforce that opening. Now, with that dowel back in there, I'm going to squeeze these two pieces together. I like to have one side down lower than the other. Let's see if I can scoot that up just a little bit. There we go. And now I'm going to take it off. And I want this to set up. But before I do that, I'm going to squeeze it together so it's behaving like one piece. And I know that this longer edge is going to be the outside of the pot, and the shorter edge is going to be the inside. So I'm going to go ahead right now and just cut away some of the clay where it's going to land against the side of the pot. And this will make perfect sense when you see me put the handles on. So then I'm going to set it down and push it down and out. And that is the start of a handle that I'm going to attach onto that piece. So now I need to do the same thing with this one. I'm going to pick it up, check the back side. There's no better time than right now to just clean it up from any goobers that it got sitting on the masonite. And now I'm going to dampen this dowel a little bit and wrap around it. Here we go. And remember, I want one side lower than the other. Do you see that? How one side is lower than the other? I've got a nice raised edge all the way around. I'm going to go ahead on the side that's the high side where it's going to attach onto the pot. I'm going to go ahead and cut a little bit away like that. There we go. Just like I did the other one. Then I'm going to set it down and compress it. And that right there is my second piece. And so they're ready now to put on. So I'm going to set this aside and bring this back up. Remember this little guy? Ooh, I sure remember him. And I'm going to just do a touch of water right there because actually it's pretty, I put too much on there. It's pretty wet. And I'm going to take a handle I made earlier, the exact same technique, but it's set up a little bit so it's not gummy. And here's where I pushed it down against the bat. Here's where I cut the beveled edge, and I'm going to hold it up here and see what I think. And I think, my friends, that I like it. This one seems to be standing maybe a smidge taller. Not quite sure why, but I'm just going to take a little of the clay off the bottom and see why. Yeah, there we go. Now, there's my two handles. And now all I've got to do is put them on. All right, so let's do it. Because I don't have a lot of ability to get in there and really compress this, I'm going to score where I'm attaching it. And then I'm going to bring it in and zhuzh it a little bit. I like to come in with something narrower than my negative space, like this little handle to this brush, and begin to compress it into the wall of the pot. So you're probably thinking, I don't feel so good about this. Well, it's a little tricky business. I'm going to put this dowel back in and come down here and compress and down into the body of the pot. So it's going to have a swooping motion down from there and swooping out. And you can see that that compression that I'm doing is starting to really get it attached. And then I'm pushing back against the chimney and compress down, and that is feeling pretty good to me. I'm going to address this bottom attachment a little bit more, but not until I've done the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to score this a little bit. Loosen that clay. I know I talk about it a lot, but I want to make sure I have a good strong score. And then I'm going to put this against that right there. Bring it out a little. Still looks a little tall to me. So I'm going to take a little bit off. I'll tweak this probably when I step away to make sure that I've got everything right. There we go. That's fitting pretty nicely. I'm going to go in here, and now I'm pushing it against the chimney of this pot. And then I'm going to get this dowel in here and hold this space and begin to push this pinched part of the handle together into the body of the pot. Check that negative space and check this negative space. And then this little edges where I've been putting the dowel in needs to be softened. I like to take, when I'm putting awkward handles on, and this is kind of awkward because it's small, I like to take a little brush and come in here and make sure that I'm really attached well. I've also got a sweet little chopstick. Actually, I think what I want, where is the sweet little tool I want? That's not it. There it is. I love these little hard rubber tip tools. You can find the soft ones all the time, but I like one that has a little oomphy to it. You can really feel the compression of your handle to the pot. There we go. I don't know if you can see this. Let me try zooming in a little bit. Let's see if that'll help. Because I want you to see the little details that I'm dealing with. Oh yeah, that's better. Let's look at that for a minute. So right here, I can see that there's a little bit of a line where it doesn't look fully compressed. So I go in there. I'm going to use this tool with this little flat beveled edge. Where is that? Let me see if I can find how to show you that. See that? That's what I'm going to use to get down in there. Okay. Here we go. And I just went in there and did a little compression. And now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with this sweet. Now this is a hard tipped tool. It's not soft. I'm going to push this in further. Push this in further like that. And now the next question, and please don't miss it, is do they look the same on both sides? And I think they kind of do. They don't have to be exactly the same, but they definitely need to be close. So, where's my little brush? I just set it down. I'm going to come in here and clean it up with the paintbrush. If I do it with my fingers, guess what happens? I just make a mess. Yep, and I'm just cleaning it up. I don't even need to really put any more slip on here, I don't believe. I think I'm in pretty good shape. It's a little hollow right in here, but I'll just take a little tiny piece of clay and fill that. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna step back and make sure I have what I think I have, because sometimes I think I'm done. Have you ever done that? And you look at your pot and you go, well, what was I thinking? That's not done. I'm gonna work on that negative space just a little bit more. Come back in with my brush and clean it up. Negative spaces are so important to me. When I look at other people's pots and their handles, one of the first things that my eye goes to is where the pot isn't. There's a tension that pots have around the outside of a form. It's almost like an aura, and it has a little glow on the edges of the lines of the pot. And I look at that, and then the next thing that I see, or maybe sometimes the first thing, is negative spaces, which is that space between the handle right there. So let's see what we've got. Hopefully we're in pretty good shape. I'm going to go ahead and take a nice little soft sponge and just clean up around this piece just a little bit. Oh, it's not on center on the bat anymore. That doesn't matter. It's happy. Compress any goobers in the slip. And this piece is going to go in the Kazagama. I'm very excited to say, and I feel like that it just really, really wants to be. So let's look at it together and make sure that the handles are both pulling up in the same way, coming to the same height, have the same distance under here as the attachment, and that the pot is very happy about everything that's happened to it, because it was not easily birthed, right?